Okay, I gotta adjust this thing a little bit. Just takes a minute to get this situated so it's just right. Okay, that looks about right. Hello, everybody. Oh, this brush needs to be cleaned better. Okay, anyway, this is a Lovecraft portrait for somebody, a commission for somebody. He may tune in later if he gets my note. And it's partially done, as you can tell, because I hadn't really planned to. I haven't done any live videos in a while, actually. No real reason, just haven't thought to do them. But this one I figured I'd at least show the second part, I guess. And I'm almost done with this damn cold, so I might cough a little bit. I might need a drink of water now and then, some agua. But other than that, I'm like 99% back to normal. If you can call me normal. Anyway, so what's been done so far is to get this sort of squished perspective, proportion. I found an image of Lovecraft that I liked, took it into Photoshop, changed the proportions, just so I would save myself some time and mental anguish getting it the likeness right, being sort of squished like this. And it's partially inspired by an artist, an illustrator, who was pretty popular back in the late 70s, early 80s, by the name of Gilbert Stone. He did a bunch of illustrations for Rolling Stone and other places, and that was his whole look, was sort of stretching things vertically. So that's why I did that partially, and to sort of give it a little bit more of an otherworldly kind of feeling. And so after getting the drawing done, I painted the figure in watercolor, and then because I didn't want the next phase to mess up the borders on the edges on this, first I sprayed it with some spray fix so I wouldn't mess up the watercolor by the next step, which was brushing on some transparent gesso. And I don't know if you can see it, some of the gesso was a tiny bit too thick, like there's a little bit of an area here that's a little lighter. But if I want to, when I'm done with the whole process, I can go in and darken some of these areas. Obviously you can paint on top of transparent gesso. It leaves a tooth that's pretty good and should work for the next phase, which is at least some of these tentacles and stuff I'm going to try and paint in a little bit more of a blurry look rather than tightly defined. And my plan is to have this whole background sort of in shades of a lime green fading to maybe a blue. Haven't really decided exactly what I'm going to do, but that's the general idea. So I got to turn my music down a little bit. In my headphones anyway, so I can hear myself talk. So this next phase is going to be with ink, FW ink, and I'm getting a few colors right now. And those of you that haven't seen any of my videos don't know what FW ink is. It's an acrylic ink that I've used a lot lately. So this step is probably going to involve a lot of layering. And I didn't think I was going to be coughing this much, because I haven't really coughed much at all lately. But I also haven't had to talk a ton. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is mix some ink in this palette to the right of the screen. Boy, I tell you, I swear to God, I haven't coughed hardly at all lately. Alright, and then next step is going to be laying in some water on this background, and then I'll add the paint to try and get a sort of a soft gradation for the very first step. There will be several steps along the way here. And I probably should mark where the best position is for this picture, this image to be on my table. This is stupid, this cough. And I'll have to use a different brush once I get close to this image. Brush with a little bit more control. It looks like it's probably going to be going over some edges of this, but it won't be affecting the watercolor because it's underneath this layer of gesso. And you gotta turn it sometimes in the light so you can see if you missed any areas. Okay. Get some of this. Get some water added to some of this ink. And I'll look at the computer screen behind me every once in a while to see if there are any comments I need to answer, but I can't see them right now because I'm turned away from the screen. And the phone is upside down, so I can't see any comments there. But I appreciate anyone that's there. I'm not ignoring you, not on purpose anyway. And as always, I always appreciate anyone that shares shares the videos. So I'm going to tilt this, so hopefully I'll get some dripping effects, and I might tilt it the other way, add some more yellow so I can get some dripping the other way too. The water that I applied to this gesso has dried a little quicker than I thought it would. So it's not dripping as much as I want, but you can obviously, as you can see, change that. And right now, what I want is for the surface to stay fairly wet, so I can get some integration of these various shades. I gotta get a little bit more of the actual yellow from the bottom of the jar. And every once in a while you get some leftover junk from whatever color happened to be in the little bay before. Dried paint and stuff. Sometimes you gotta turn it the other way to control the drip if you don't want as much dripping down. It's somewhat of a somewhat of an intuitive process here. What do I think looks good for whatever almost unconscious reason. Hopefully you can see these various things happening. And a lot of this, by the time the whole painting is done, you know, hopefully it won't be as pronounced, as evident, whatever you want to call it, these various areas, these various shapes, depending on how much of this back and forth process that I do. And sometimes the danger of this technique is, you know, you're watching one area and you don't notice what another area is doing until it's too late. But like I said, I should be able to adjust a lot of these things later, or as I'm going now. And also, as I said at the very beginning, this part of the process is the beginning of the background. This is just the, I guess, would be considered sort of just an underpainting, because I'll be adding the tentacles and the wings and stuff, and hopefully I'll be able to see my pencils once this part's all done. I think this will dry a little more transparent looking than it is now. And the idea was sort of to have like a sort of a sickly green kind of background that these tentacles and bat wings would be just different values of this greenish yellow background. Sorry, I'm having to tilt this a fair amount. And hopefully I can catch some areas that have drifted into this foreground figure and wipe them out if I feel like they're evident enough and they're taking over, because I do want to maintain somewhat of an edge on some of these, at least in the beginning part of this process. You know, maybe I'll change some color somewhere to have more of a lost edge, but that's going to be down the road. And in fact, this video, you know, I'll probably stop this video in a minute and then start up again a little bit later on, because I think I want to wait for this to dry at least to a certain degree. So I think I will stop for now and let this dry. Feel free to tune in again later, and maybe I'll go answer if anyone had any questions.